Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Shifsky, and I'm here today with Kayla Gustafson. The title of our presentation today is really, I think, very timely, and it's Doing Business in Unusual Times. And Kayla is here with a very extensive background in real estate. As a matter of fact, teaching real estate, education. In fact, Kayla has a master's degree in business, background in corporate compliance, has led a couple highly successful brokerages, boutique brokerages here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and is currently the managing broker of High Pointe Realty. She is also an adjunct professor at Metro State University and is married, a wonderful husband of 10 years, and has an 18-month-old daughter, 2 beagles, dogs also, and I don't know where you get time to even come here today. So,
prioritization is really important.
And we're going to talk about prioritization today, actually. So, 1 minute. We're back. Hopefully you can hear us now. Check 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello.
Yes.
Do you have us? Okay, oh, I see people texting. Can you hear us? Are they saying yes?
Yes.
Can you hear and see us now? Talk about business in unusual times. They're saying yes. Yes, yes, yes. They're all saying yes.
They're hearing you? Okay.
And you can hear us too, right? Yes, yes, yes. Wow, thumbs up. All right. Let's do this. We're going to roll from the top one more time because I know that we still had some people join. All right. So thank you for your patience. As you can imagine, live TV, I can't imagine even what they go through every single day on the news, but this is it. So welcome everybody to Real Experts. Today's session is Doing Business in Unusual Times, and our guest today is Kayla Gustafson. And Kayla comes to us not only with some extensive education, but also quite a background in real estate. And what Kayla comes to us with is a master's degree in business, background in corporate compliance. Has led a couple highly successful boutique brokerages here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and she currently is a managing broker of High Pointe Realty. In her spare time, she is an adjunct professor at Metro State University. She's married to a wonderful man for 10 years. You have an 18-month-old daughter and a couple of beagles at home.
Yes.
I seriously don't know where you get the time to even be here today.
Like I said before, it's prioritization plays a big part of it.
Well, and we're going to talk about that a bit today. How do you prioritize, what you're working on today? I think for a lot of us today, doing business in unusual times, many of us had to put our heads down and really work in the business. And one of the things we got to talk about today is how do you work on your business and not in your business? Because what we're going to talk about is really this massive change that we've all been a part of now in the last 2, 3, 4. Really, I think we targeted like March 6th.
Yeah.
March 6th, everything changed. And some of you on here today, you've already gone through some massive changes. You've already started to move where your business is going.
Mm-hmm.
And others, you haven't moved at all. And probably a good thing you're here today with us. So, because we're going to talk about that. How do you do business on unusual times?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you change? How do you know where to go? How do you understand kind of the processes it takes to get to good outcomes?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to condense it all down to about 30 minutes. So this is going to be this could be hours, obviously, but we're going to hit it pretty fast and pretty hard.
Yep.
And I thought what I would do is just kind of set the stage a little bit for our listeners, because some of you have been in business since 2006, 2007, 2008. Remember the dark days, into the big, the Great Recession and the financial meltdown. Well, I remember it. I was in education, and I remember when, all of a sudden people just stopped coming to class because the real estate industry had just changed overnight. It had fallen off the table. And what I remember about that time was that there were some brokerages, there were some teams, and there were some agents who were able to adapt. They were able to see the change. They were able to to change their business in such a way to take advantage of the situation. And I remember it too, because it wasn't like it was overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It was like little steps people started to go. Because first it was, boy, all these homes are going into foreclosure. I need to understand short sale.
Yep.
I need to understand foreclosures.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was learning all these new sort of, things we probably should have known even better at the time, but to really become an aficionado at short sales and foreclosures, how do you affect that? How do you know who to listen to? How do you know where to go to get that information? How do you see what other people are doing in the business? Because I know nobody started off back then in 2006, 2007 saying, I'm going to be an REO expert.
Yeah.
Nobody started that.
Yeah.
People went little steps along the way, and the need arose, and they found the information they needed to, incrementally change their business to all of a sudden service those REOs. And there were a lot of people, and now some of you out there today, that were able to change your business, right? And not only survive, but to really thrive in this kind of, and I think we're in another time like this.
We are. We absolutely are.
Right?
Yeah. And I think it's really apt that you kind of point back to 2008, even though the situation is different. There are a lot of similarities, and we should point back to experiences where we can. And that's kind of the nearest, closest one that is looking like what we have going on here today. I think it's interesting that you talk about incremental changes, because that's one of the things that I have looked at from a managing broker perspective to a team lead perspective to just an individual agent in the industry level, is, what are the changes I need to make? And I can't change everything overnight instantly. It's just not feasible. Most people, your business operates the way it does for a reason, but not changing and not taking steps to change is a problem.
Yeah.
I think you're going to come out of this saying, well, dang, I should have X, Y, and Z, all of the list of things that, all the possibilities, all the competition or everyone else in the industry, has made some changes and changed things along the way. And then you don't want to be the one sitting there at the end saying,
yeah.
oops.
So if I think what I hear you saying is, doing business in unusual times, which now currently is unusual. I don't think anybody thinks it's not.
Yeah.
The key here is, if you haven't changed the way you do business, it's already passing
It's a
you
problem.
by,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And I know there's people out there who have done some changes. And so what we're going to do, I think hopefully we're going to get into and talk about is, how do you make the right changes?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know, how do you know you need to change? And where is it going? Because I think one of the things people are afraid about change is, am I going to be a trailblazer?
Yep.
Am I going to be so far out ahead of the pack that I'm going to be left, out for dead? And I think one of the things we can talk about is with change, you don't have to be a trailblazer in this. In fact, looking at what other people do, is a big part of understanding where you need to go.
Yes. We were talking about this earlier. One of the ways that I when everything happened at the beginning of March, one of the things that I did was I took about a week to get my sources in line. Who was I listening to? There was so much chatter, both kind of, in the country and on the news, but then also within the industry on, what should you be doing and what do we think is changing and how long do we think this is going to last? And I took a week just very intensively listening to other people, other business owners, other brokers, other agents, both in my market and outside of it, to get a sense of what the challenges they saw were, because I don't ever think that I'm the one with all of the answers. I think that, many minds together is always the better solution. There are people who have more experience, more time in the industry, more of a lot of different things than I do. And so I took a lot of time trying to figure out who are the people that matter to me to listen to. And I kind of created that group of sources. Mm-hmm. And I still listen to them now. And if I have questions, I've cultivated people in the local market and people, that I am close with, that then I can ask questions of or bounce ideas off of.
So really, identifying sources.
Yes.
And really, it's about communication.
Yes.
Right. So, because here's the key: is change is going to happen,
mm-hmm.
and you're either going to have your head down, working on your business, right? You're working on your business, or you're working in your business, because
mm-hmm.
because we all know that there's so many different issues that have come up
yep.
during this kind of unusual times that you are spending really an inordinate amount of time with clients solving
mm-hmm.
problems.
Yep.
Because the other thing, one of the great things about everybody who's watching this webinar right now is you're a problem solver. And you're a really good problem solver.
Mm-hmm.
So you're solving problems and you got your head down and you're listening to your clients very well. But are you taking a step back? And are you working on your business? Meaning, are you seeing all the things that are happening around you? And I think what you said was you took a step back
mm-hmm.
and you said, holy smokes, I need more information.
Yes.
And the fact that you're here listening to this webinar says you need more information. You are on your way. But you also brought up a really key point. Clearly, we discussed a little bit ahead of time here to make sure we can condense this into half an hour. But who you let in
mm-hmm.
is important.
Yes.
Right? What sources are you going to
yes.
for your knowledge?
Mm-hmm.
Because some of it's just noise, and we don't have every single hour of every day to just chase every single stray end.
Right.
So when you're looking for those sources, what are you looking for? How do you identify? Because I think this is the big part of what people say. Who's the source?
Yeah.
Who should I be listening to?
Yeah. So I went to, the first place I went is I went to the associations. I went to the people whose job it is to make sure that information gets down to the industry and that it's relevant and beneficial. And so I started at the top. And then, I cultivated sources within my network also. Do I have other people who are managing brokers of their brokerage, other people playing that role that are sensitive to the same questions and answers, that I'm getting, and I, need to manage my agents with.
When you reached out to those other managing brokers, your peers,
mm-hmm.
how willing were they to talk to you about what they're doing?
They're very willing. I think in the industry, we kind of get this bad rap that, a lot of people are not collaborative and they don't want to share information. And I think that is sometimes true, especially, when you're in kind of negotiation mode. But as you get kind of outside of those, don't talk to those people. Talk to the people who will talk to you, because those are the people who are going to give you the best information.
Right.
There's many, many people in our industry. There's plenty of people to choose from who believe that there's enough business for all of us, that we can all be better and it doesn't hinder anyone else. And so I found, sources who were willing to talk to me. And
right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, because here's the thing, what you find is you don't have to be the trailblazer. Somebody's already doing something that's working, mm-hmm. something that they've identified, right? So it's gathering
yes.
information. And so how do you identify you've got a problem, and how do you let the resources come in? Who do you listen to? Who do you talk to? Where do you go? Clearly, I should let you know, too, from the education perspective, our education is like off the charts right now. So
Mhm.
people are coming in, getting educated.
It's a great time to do professional development.
It's an awesome time
It is.
to
Yeah.
buff your skills, buff your knowledge, and jet yourself ahead. Because here's the thing, in education, people are tasked with being, current and relevant.
Yes.
And so you're going to get ideas when you come to it. We have education, competitors have education.
Mm-hmm.
The key here is you need to go get it.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to keep yourself relevant on that front side because they are aggregators of knowledge.
Yes.
Those educators are also. And that can come through associations, come through schools, come through professional development organizations, all of that. Excellent. And then I have a question because I know we got a lot of people on here right now. I think we'd like to understand who's here and what you need out of this today, because I want to ask just a couple questions, specific questions of Kayla. So I'm going to put this poll question up. It is, what's your primary role? This is a chance where you don't get to just listen, you get to play along. I'd love everybody to go ahead and answer this poll. Put it up on the screen in just a second. We're going to go ahead and if you would go ahead and answer this, it's all anonymous, but you're going to see the results. So we have, are you a managing broker? Are you responsible for your brokerage? Are you a team leader? Do you have a pile of people under you, that you're responsible for? Or are you an agent, salesperson, broker, depending on the state, but it's just you. You're doing your own show. So if we go ahead and we'll give you probably another 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and hit the polls, everybody. 0. And then let's go ahead and look at the results. Look at that. And we are overwhelming one way. Agents, responsible for yourself. I guess that kind of surprises me a little bit, but then when I think about it, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's like 90. Can we go ahead and post those results out there so everybody can see? Excellent. I think everybody, I'm pretty sure everybody saw that, but if you didn't see it, 94% of you are individual agents. And that kind of stands to follow because maybe you're down, you're working in your business and you should be changing. You should be doing you're doing little things different, but how do you know you're doing the right things different? Yeah. Right? Because in the time of risk and uncertainty, sometimes I know in decision making, we focus really heavy on the immediate. Yes. The right now.
That's the natural response.
Right.
Usually when they're in periods of uncertainty, and there's actually a lot of studies about this, that people tend to pull things closer. And what that does is that, your long-term goals suffer, and the plan that you had at the beginning of the year or 3 years ago goes out the window, and you just tighten down. I think one of the most important things is to make sure that you're not ignoring the new environment we're in, but that you're not sacrificing all your long-term goals. Because if you do that, what's going to end up happening is you're probably going to exit the industry. And that's a problem. Then you don't get this opportunity to reach your goals.
This is what we saw back in 2008, 2009. Those people had the long-term goals, right? And then they tried to focus critically, and then they literally just missed it because they couldn't change quick enough.
Yes. Nimbleness is an important piece of that. No matter what size your business is, if you can't be nimble, you're going to have a lot of trouble in situations like this. And I think we're seeing that at a larger level too. A lot of big businesses, they either have to be nimble or they have to have really deep pockets. Yeah. And those are really kind of the options right now.
So goal setting. Goal setting is one of the things we talked about is going to be key during uncertain times. And understand long-term goals and short-term goals. And you explained to me a little bit earlier that how you manage goals. And I'd love if we could share a little bit of that with people, because I thought it was insightful, and it's almost liberating to hear it from somebody else.
Yeah.
How do you do your goals?
Yeah. So I didn't used to do it this way, but now that kind of everything has changed, I had to look at the way that I was setting my goals and do it differently. And because every day it kind of sometimes feels like you're maybe taking a step back as opposed to a step forward, I implemented this weekly 3-goal system that I have. So every Monday, I write down my 3 goals for the week, and I try to focus on 2 short-term goals and 1 long-term goal to make sure that I'm intentional about never letting that long-term goal go. And then I try to just accomplish those 3 goals during the week. That doesn't mean that, I don't do anything else, but it helps. A lot of kind of doing business in these types of times is about keeping your head above water without then taking all of the emphasis away from your long-term goals and growing your business. And you might not be able to take giant steps. You might not be able to, go in the exact direction you thought you were going.
In fact, you probably should.
You might not want to, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing about goal setting and change. It's one of the things I want to make sure we talk about, because I also think this is liberating for people that are sitting there right now. Because some of you I know are hurting. You're not getting the listings,
yes.
right? Listings are down immensely. There's a lot of pressure in certain marketplaces, and so some of you are really hurting, and you're like, I need to change everything. What would your advice be to somebody who says, I need to change everything?
I think the fact that you need to change is good, but I caution against making wholesale changes all at one time. I think 1, it's super disruptive to your business that you do have going on. 2, it's really difficult. And so, because it's not just making the change or setting the policy and then, it's the change is done. There's this whole change management is a whole entire, it's a study area, because there's so much that entails, seeing that change all the way through to the end and making sure that it actually works, that I don't suggest you do giant changes. I think incremental is the better way to do that.
Because we see it all the time. Somebody sets a goal, and it's a really grand goal, but it's a massive change to the business. Which I really liked your approach of 3 goals a week, right? 1 long-term, 2 short-term. Because those short-term goals could be small incremental changes. I mean, it's the way we do just about everything around here. We try to take small incremental changes that keep what you do well, but change what you don't do well. And here's another part to the goal setting, which I really liked, which was don't work on anything. Don't work on anything that isn't going to benefit you in the long term. Tell me about that. Why?
So focus on lasting changes is how I kind of put this. And so, in times like this, I think everyone has a lot of uncertainty about, maybe the next paycheck or how many resources you're going to have at the end of the year, because we don't know what the end of the year looks like. So focus on what will give you a return no matter what happens in this.
Because we don't know really what's good. There could
be,
right, in uncertain times, there could be another thing to pile on top of where we're at now.
That's been this year. So, I mean, every time you turn around, there's something else that's happening and adding on.
Right on. So small changes, right? So let me go back to the beginning and just summarize a little bit from where we're at, because we got a couple more really good things to cover here in a second. So sources, where are you getting your information? Are you taking a step back? And are you listening and bringing in information? And are you making yourself smarter about what's really happening in the marketplace? And then are you setting goals to get to those places? A long-term goal, short incremental changes, right? Little tiny ones that just start to stack up week after week, and they're easy to adjust. The key is you might have a goal here, right? And the first time you make an adjustment, it might take you over here. And then you got to adjust back to here, and then to here. So you may make 3 adjustments to get to where you go, and that's okay. Right?
Exactly.
But the key is sometimes if you just try to take it all at once, you never move, right? That's paralysis. Because you're like, how do I even do this?
I think that's interesting too, because I think it's okay to pause, though. There's a difference between pausing and paralysis. You don't want to be paralyzed. You don't want to not make decisions. You don't want to put your head in the sand and not, even look up at what the environment is. But it's okay to pause, like I did, when this happened, and I just said, I need to listen to other people. It's okay to take that time and say, I need more information to make this decision. I plan to make it in X amount of time after I've done this.
So let me ask. So somebody takes a pause, right? So first off, you realize you got to change it. Right, I think everybody here realizes you got to change it. So when you, how do you identify when to pivot, and how do you identify when, you know what, I've already got this. I am on the right track, and I need to double down. How do you identify that?
For me, it's when I've, cultivated my sources, if my sources are doing and saying things that are similar to kind of what I'm doing, it has this energizing effect. And I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm not the only one saying that we need to be doing this. I'm not the only one investing in this.
You don't need to be the first one on the moon.
No, you don't need to. And also, that's not the definition of success, in my opinion, is not just who got there first. It's, who didn't, have a major blow up along the way. And so really, especially in times like this, where we don't know what's going to happen next, we don't know how long it's going to last,
right.
Stay alive. Keep your business alive. You don't need to take, a huge jump when you can take a little one and then figure out what's going on and then take another one. You'll get there in the same amount of time.
What are some things that you did that was a pivot for your business in this time?
Yeah, so one of the big things we did is we rolled out a virtual buyer program, which was one of the first things we did. Number one, we invested in a little bit of tech that had kind of been on the sidelines. We've been thinking about it, but hadn't done it because we didn't need it. Yeah. So we invested in some video tech to be able to do that. And then we rolled out a virtual buyer program so that we could essentially walk buyers through homes without actually needing to be in person.
So somebody's actually in there videoing,
yep.
walking, streaming. Yep.
Answering questions as we go, or can you, open this drawer? What does that look like? And, those kinds of things.
And how was that received by your buyer?
It was received so well. So many people are trying to figure out how they still move forward with their life goals.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of that is also moving. We have 3 kids and we've outgrown our house. That becomes even more real when you have situations.
Oh, everybody's tucked
exactly.
in, yeah.
That doesn't, people still have needs to move around, and
so
gives them the opportunity to do that.
Love that. Is there another thing you did that you changed immediately?
Yeah, one of the things we changed immediately was for our listings. We actually started implementing Matterport so 3D tours. As a part of all of our listings.
So as a part of the listing, you were throwing out a 3D full virtual tour.
Right, which helps, it helps buyers, but it also helps our sellers, that anyone who isn't, ready to buy doesn't need to be in that home. And so it gives a level of protection without not showcasing the home.
So here's an example, and I know you guys have probably seen these tools or things like it, or even like BombBomb. It's been around for a while.
Yes.
Because part of the thing I imagine which is tricky about this, and a lot of people are saying, well, how do I keep that human connection with my people if I'm doing this stuff? Because that's a big part of what we do and video is a key aspect of staying connected to people.
Yes.
Right? Keeping it real, keeping the relationship, right? But doing business in unusual times, and here's the real key. I'm going to guess, but tools like Matterport for listings, tools like virtual buyer programs where you're actually walking through homes. Do you see yourselves doing that? Like, let's say there was a cure for our situation today, and we didn't have that. We'd have none of the pressures we have today that we didn't have, 4 months ago. What would you still be doing these things?
100%.
100%.
That's why we're doing them.
Got it. So whatever you do has to not only work today, but it has to work going forward.
Yep.
Otherwise, you spend so much time, and unless you got a war chest, of money built up, whatever you're doing today for your goals has got to work going forward.
An investment, absolutely.
As an investment, you've got to be able to stretch that into a winning strategy going forward. And really, those are just a couple specifics, but I think the key about unusual times, if I have 3 takeaways from this today, it's have your head up. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Gather resources, sources, news, there's lots of different outlets. Inman News is a good news source, right? Your local papers are good news sources. Groups, mastermind groups, educators and education, professional development. You got to have your head up. You have got to understand sources. Focus on lasting changes, right? So setting your goals and then lasting changes that last a long time. And then giving yourself the freedom to make little tiny changes along the way. If you can do it in steps, I think this is what you said. Yeah. Little steps along the way, little incremental changes that you can adjust as you go. The key is you can't stay in one place.
Yep.
You've got to move or the market leaves you behind.
Absolutely.
And we've seen this before.
Yes. Yep. That is exactly it.
Very good. Well, Kayla, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me. It was
yeah.
really fun.
Absolutely. And thank you, everybody, for joining our Real Experts presentation.